How do we prepare a quote? So for a quote, we basically the business is going to have to, for each product or job, estimate three things. The first thing is the cost of labor. So that is the cost of the wages and salaries of the workers involved in producing the good and performing the services required. The next thing is the cost of materials. So the cost of materials used to produce the final product, which will include costs for things like the parts, components, and any tools used in performing the job. And lastly, we're going to need to estimate a desired profit, the amount of profit the business wishes to make on top of the costs of labor and materials. So this may be estimated using the percentage markup pricing method. So for example, we add a 25% markup on a job that we think will cost 100,000. We're going to need to charge a selling price of 125,000. Or say a 50% markup on a job costing 20,000, that will be a selling price of 30,000. Let's look at two examples. So this one is a painting business preparing a quote for a potential client, and we've prepared the following estimates. The cost of paint will be $50 per litre. The cost of the painting materials used, so paint brushes and trays and stuff, will add up to $1,200. They're going to have to buy an extra long ladder, so this job must be up very high and it must be bigger than any ladder that the business currently has. So we're going to buy a new one for $400. Now this is important. The ladder will be purchased for this specific job and will not be used again for other jobs. So basically the business is going to buy the ladder, use it once for this job, and then never use it again. And lastly, the cost of the labor. We're going to get our junior painters to paint this as part of our painting business, and they earn $30 an hour. The owner of the business estimates the job will require 30 litres of paint and the use of 2 junior painters working 15 hours each. The owner's minimum desired profit for any job is $2,000 over 40-hour weeks. And now with all that, we can estimate our quote. So let's split this up into three things. The first thing is the cost of materials, then we'll do the cost of labor, then the desired profit. We'll add them all up and we'll get the price of the quote. Let's start with the cost of materials. The paint itself, there'll be 30 litres of paint, and each litre costs $50, so that's a total of $1,500. Next we have the actual cost of the painting materials, which is $1,200, and we've also got the extra long ladder which we need specifically for this job. So we add all those up, we're going to get $3,100 as the cost of materials. Next, the cost of labour. We're going to use 2 junior painters and they're going to work 15 hours each, so that's a total of 30 hours. They make $30 an hour, so that comes out at $900, and there are no other labor costs. Our desired profit, it says the business for a 40-hour week attempts to make a profit of $2,000. So there's 40 hours in a week, so that works out at $50 per hour of profit. We think we're going to spend 30 hours total on this job. And that's going to be at $50 per hour, so that's a profit of $1,500. So we need to add that on the top. So our total price of the quote will be the cost of materials, the cost of labor, and the desired profit, which in this case will add to $5,500. Let's look at another example. A plumbing business is preparing a quote for a potential client and has given the following estimates. The cost of piping is $5 per meter. The cost of the parts used will be $400. We're going to buy some new tools to do the job, which is $1,100, but we've got a difference here. It says the tools are needed for this job, but the business will be able to use them for future jobs. Lastly, we've got the cost of labour. It's going to be a senior plumber making $70 per hour. The owner of the business estimates the job will require 20 metres of piping and a total of 10 hours of labour. The owner's minimum desired profit for any job is a percentage markup of 50% on the costs of the job. So let's do our quote. Let's start with the cost of materials. We've got the piping. The piping, we need 20 metres. It's $5 per metre, so that's $100. We've got the parts used, which are $400. Then we've got the cost of the tools for $1,100. Now, however, what it says up here is we're actually going to be able to use those for future jobs. So if they're not tools specifically for this job, we're actually going to take those back out, and we'll explain why on the next slide. So really, when we add up the total cost of materials, it's only $500. Now we can get to the cost of labour. We think it's going to be a 10-hour job, and the senior plumber gets paid $70 an hour. That's a total of $700. Our desired profit was we're going to look at a 50% markup on the cost. So far we've got the cost of materials, which are 500. The cost of labor is 700. That's a total of 1200. 50% markup of that is $600. So we better add that in too. So when we add up the total of the $500 of material, $700 of labor, $600 profit, the price of that quote is going to be $1,800. So that just leaves a little difference here. What was the difference between the first example where we had the extra long ladder, which won't be used again for any other job, that was included in the quote, versus the cost of the new tools for the plumber, where they're going to be able to be used for future jobs. Now that wasn't included in the quote, and the difference comes down to this. The tools that we can use in the future are actually going to be an asset. So we've looked at what an asset is and what that means. That means it's going to provide a future economic benefit for the business. So therefore, it's not going to be a cost that this particular job is going to incur on its own. So it won't be included on the quote.